Welcome to the future of CX in the equipment industry with Aaron Wallace. Aaron has spent 20 years shaping the customer experience in the agriculture industry, working directly with dealers, driving customer engagement at John Deere, and leading strategy in seed and crop protection at BASF. Now, she's at Bain & Company advising organizations worldwide on customer-led growth transformation. Aaron is a certified CX practitioner, a global board director for the CXPA, and a mentor to emerging CX leaders. She's here to share real-world insights and strategies that can elevate how we think about customer experience in our businesses. Welcome to the virtual stage, Aaron Wallace.
I'm really excited to be here today. It's been a little while since I've been with a group of equipment and equipment industry folks. And so this is a really great opportunity for me to kind of reconnect with my roots. And I will tell you that this time of year, I really miss working in agriculture and with equipment. You know, the smell of freshly turned earth and the satisfaction of seeing a new planter running for the first time are kind of core memories for me. And so while I love what I do, I really miss the people, right, and the environment of working with equipment and in ag specifically. But I'm super excited to be with you today. The industry means a lot. The theme is important and it hits home. I just want to say I invite questions along the way, so keep it real and feel free to pop questions in. And Ryan, I just invite you to join the conversation at any time. For me, this is a great opportunity to share the great work from colleagues at Bain. We've recently released two things that I'll build off of today. One is a new point of view on the transformation of customer experience. And the second was released late last year. It's our Global Machinery and Equipment Report. I also know that there's a lot more to share than what we have time for. So my goal is to just ground you, to give you some inspiration and maybe a few things to noodle on, as well as extend an offer to continue the conversation should you find it applicable to your business. Past as well. So I want to share a little bit of the research from the last 4 years through the Machinery and Industrial Report. And what we saw was that your industry mirrored the broader economy. We were kind of fat and happy back when I was with Deere. We had full factories, we had empty dealer lots and good margins. What happened after that, right, for the most recent years was exceptional volatility. The US and China trade war made manufacturers realign their suppliers, which in addition to COVID-related factory shutdowns and labor shortages, just wreaked havoc, right, on our supply chains. In addition to that, the war in the Ukraine drove up raw material prices. We've got an uncertainty of demand in key markets that have historically been key for both new and used equipment trading. And then increases in interest rates recently has made it a lot harder to break even for our customers as well as for us. And at the same time, right, your industry has had the pedal to the metal in terms of advancing technology and digitization and AI. And I'm sure out of everyone here in the room today, some of us are like trying to be at the front of that race and others are just holding on for dear life. But no matter where you sit, the reality is that your industry is a bigger consumer of chips and IoT technology than any other sector. We know also that successful machinery companies have responded to this by designing specific experiences, specific digital solutions for their target customers where they're leading, which means you have to be even better and continue to be even better, not just at selling equipment, but at selling solutions. Because we also see that leaders in this space, emerging leaders in this space, in the machinery industry outperform the overall industry on total shareholder return by 100%. So there's a lot to take in terms of where we've been. And then as we look towards the future, being clear on three things will really shape our success. Number one, how are customer needs changing? What do our teams need to thrive? And how can we really make an award-winning apple pie, as my mother does, out of the apples, right? So how do we turn these challenges into opportunities? So as we look to the future, I want you to feel super confident about what's not changing first. And what's not changing is the fundamentals of customer loyalty. And if you're not familiar with Bain, Bain literally wrote the book on customer loyalty. It's been a primary area of focus for us since 2006, starting with the invention of the Net Promoter Score as a proxy for loyalty. Then the work to develop the holistic Net Promoter system of listening, learning, and acting. And now developing most recently, and you can read more about this in the Winning on Purpose book, but developing earned growth as the first reliable accounting metric or accounting measure that incorporates NPS. So the bottom line is enriching the lives of your customers is the most enduring and profitable business strategy. And in fact, as you'll see in the next slide, the evidence is even stronger now than it has been over the years that we've been testing this, despite the turbulence. And this is true across industries. So while I've shared some examples here on the slide in terms of what to expect for total shareholder return across different industries, let me share with you that being a leader in customer experience impacts both the income statement as well as the balance sheet in your company. So just some examples: leaders in customer experience as measured through NPS have a 20% reduction in customer acquisition cost and a 10 to 15% higher conversion rate. Leaders have a 15% reduction in cost to serve their customers and a 20 to 30% reduction in direct costs from reduced complexity, digitization, and automation. They're also plugging the holes in their leaky buckets better than their competitors, and they're seeing a 15 to 20% reduction in churn. From a balance sheet impact, they're performing 20 to 30% better than the competitors in NPS. They're earning goodwill on their balance sheet. They're earning referrals, which drives that lower cost of customer acquisition, and they're earning shareholder trust. But Ryan mentioned in his kickoff that these results are only possible if your teams are not just engaged, but they're inspired by their leaders and their work. And so on the next slide, and I will probably skim over this a bit given our last presentation, but I just want to highlight that good compensation and good benefits is not enough, right, to attract great talent in the future. And that you've got to bring in other parts of the value proposition to really move to the front. Greg mentioned some of these stats, in fact, in his presentation. So maybe I'll just share an example of a company that has done a really nice job of linking the impact of customer experience and employee experience. And that company is Adidas, or as we like to say, Adidas. Adidas is a company that we probably all have in our closet, right? They're recognized, though, as a company that values employee experience and works towards creating positive and inclusive work environment for its employees. They say, we believe that our people are the key to our success. Becoming the global leader in the sporting industry depends on the potential, the dedication, and the knowledge and performance of our employees and the excellence of our leaders. And they have implemented programs like People Pulse to gather feedback from employees and take action from those insights. They've also invested a lot in areas including professional development, employee benefits, diversity and inclusion to support the overall experience. And you can see the results on this slide. And it is measurable, it's impactful, right? They're seeing a significant improvement in the Net Promoter Score, which they have also linked to an improvement in terms of average transactional value. Their employees are digging deep to understand what customers want and need and finding solutions for them, right, while they're in the store. They know that there's a percentage of customer NPS that's driven by employee experience and are able to balance that against store experience and store operations, which helps them also determine where to invest and for what outcomes. And so I think this is a great example that clearly identifies kind of the linkage between the two. And I should warn you too, throughout this, I'm going to share a couple of examples that I hope inspire you, and they're not going to be in your industry. I'm a firm believer that looking outside of industry can help us think creatively. And the reality is that customer experience expectations are not set based on what is available in your industry. They're set based on the best experiences that they are engaging with and throughout, their entire life, right, as a consumer as well as a professional. So I think it's important to look beyond, and that's why I'll give you some of those examples. All right, so we've covered kind of the past. We've covered what's not changing in terms of the importance of employee experience in delivering customer experience. So now let's shift gears to talking about the future of CX. So there are important capabilities and expectations that have changed and will be very impactful to the future. Let's talk first about digitization. And that is a word that, frankly, with Invisalign, I can barely say, but it simply means that we're making our manual, paper-driven processes able to be done on a computer. So I remember when I was at Deere, we digitized surveys years ago, right? When we moved from paper to web-based surveys. We digitized service manuals. I remember first being on CD and now in the cloud, of course. And we've digitized customer service. You no longer have to drive into a store, but can access your account online to make payments or to ask questions. So if we go to the next slide, what I would suggest to you is that digitization is now a commodity. Your customers expect the same digital convenience and transparency from you that they get in consumer retail. So providing a frictionless offline and online experience that is seamlessly connected is what's required to drive trust and in turn loyalty. So what could that look like in your business in the future, right? I think of a couple of different examples, but I know also that you guys have the answers in your head as well. The first is an example that you see here with Obsess. It's a virtual showroom. It basically is a virtual store experience. Can you imagine digitizing your entire store? But they use the work, they build on the work that's already been done to digitize inventories, e-commerce, product overviews, etc. And they create an immersive experience. It's completely transferable as well between the phone, the web browser, and the in-store experience. And this company, believe it or not, has been around since 2016. It's a VC-backed company, and it's totally consumer focused. But I would imagine you could think about aspects of this that would be relevant even in your business. That seamless omni-channel experience, while it was an ambition and aspiration for so many of us over the last 10 years, it's really the baseline expectation today. When a customer walks into your dealership, or if they browse the website on their smartphone, they expect at minimum consistent pricing, product information, service offerings, and they expect that to be a seamless handoff between those experiences.
Erin, can I ask you a quick question about that?
Yeah, go ahead.
So do you have concerns? I mean, especially the ag business, but I think construction as well has been very much a relationship-driven business, and that salespeople are building relationships and understanding the client's business. Do you foresee any inherent risks in kind of digitization and the loss of that relationship, that intimacy with the customer?
I don't see digitization as reducing the need for that relationship. In fact, I see that digitization strengthens the value of that human relationship. And in fact, I addressed this a little bit on the next slide, if you want to move forward to that, Michelle. The shift here is that the way we connect becomes more fluid. It's less driven by how we, as a salesperson or an account manager, want to connect with our client. And it is more driven by how the client wants to engage with us. But the overall goal is still trust. And trust is still built through the cumulative effect of all of these connections over time. So what that means for us is that we have to be more effective at orchestrating all of these different types of connections. In the past, we just let Ed handle it because Ed had that account and that relationship and was responsible and did everything that they could do, right? But now the reality is that different teams, different technology, are all involved. And so orchestration of that is super critical for the overall relationship. And as leaders, what we need to know are what are the most important and effective and compelling pieces of our brand, of our value proposition, and of these experiences that we need to bring together for orchestration. And that's going to look different. It's going to look different for your customer segments, right? If you're dealing with small ag versus large road construction companies, and it's going to look different based on the customer, meaning the person that you're building that relationship with too, kind of going back to the generational differences in what they expect and need. So it's quite fluid. Does that help, Ryan?
That's awesome. Thank you very much. I think it's one of those things that I think employees especially have a fear that they're going to lose some of that intimacy and relationship as we move more towards online. And I think there's always some inherent fear that maybe the OEM starts selling direct and invalidates the need or removes the need for the dealer network, like all sorts of different concerns. And I think this is still about servicing that equipment. It's still about selling and building that trust. So I think you hit it head on and 100% accurate that we still have to do what we say we're going to do and commit. And now they can engage with us in multiple ways. So I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, Greg shared a lot of insights, some of which I think are captured on this slide as well, and reinforce kind of the recognition that expectations across generations are different. Like for me, I'm an old Gen Xer. And so as I observe my kids who are 22 and 15, I see them on this slide. I know that they're impatient. I know they want to solve problems on their own. And I know that when they can't, they will raise Cain, right? And so I think about them being the future of our customer groups, right? And knowing that all of that has to impact how we deal with them as employees, but also how we design the simplest things from our feedback programs to how we resolve problems to meet their needs. So like, for example, is 48 hours, which used to be kind of the standard for feedback follow-up, is that still fast enough? What are their expectations? If they're going to actually take the time to share feedback, what do they expect in terms of our response? Another thing that kind of hit home here is the shift in using AI voice assistants and the primacy of shopping on mobile phones. What does that mean for the equipment industry? How do we need to think differently about future experiences that we deliver, knowing that those are going to be the primary ways people get support and buy in the future? It really requires us to rethink not just technology, but how we enable humans to do an even better job at what they have to do with technology. And that really leads me to my next point as well, which is that the second change that's influencing the future of CX is generative AI. And the reason why that's influencing the future is because it puts the customer in the driver's seat. And I always say, isn't that where we always wanted them? It will give customers the tool to optimize some of the things that we know are most precious to them, their time. And I think if you click forward, this slide might have a little bit of a build. But in the future of CX, time is even more of a premium than it is today. I think about, large specialized equipment is super costly. It is time consuming to demo in person. One way that things might change in the future of CX is the utilization of augmented reality or virtual reality, supported, right, by human expertise. It can be a very highly effective way to educate customers, to accelerate buying decisions, to improve their confidence in the product as well. And I'll just walk through this quick example, too, of a way that a company called Perplexity Pro is really changing the game. Out of industry example, but it is one of the newest AI startups that has done a lot of really interesting things. And essentially what it is a personal shopping assistant using generative AI. So it helps you do all of the comprehensive research across multiple platforms. It uses input from review sites. It uses input from product sites to find the best products and make a recommendation that helps you make a purchase. So imagine the simplification of the process to evaluate a solution for your needs using a tool like this. And what really changes the game is that once you've made a selection to buy something, you do not need to leave the site to buy it. You can make your whole purchase in this environment. And I'm sure this wouldn't be the same for equipment, but for now, right, it even includes free shipping of the product that you purchase to your home. The other interesting thing that I think that we learned as we studied this topic is how user behavior is changing with AI. And would you know that 80% of the population are no longer clicking through links on traditional searches? So in the past, we could have done a search for, best compact utility tractor, and we would have been able to then choose the links based on who showed up first in the results. Now there's a generative AI answer to that question. And what we're seeing is that 80% of people stop there. That requires us to rethink how we populate our web pages, how we load content, how we manage that content. If I no longer need to visit Zappos to buy my shoe purchase, what does that mean for loyalty and engagement to Zappos? It really requires us to challenge what it means to have a unique value proposition. And I know this can probably seem really far out, right? But there definitely are applications to the equipment industry already with AI-driven product suggestions. We're already doing predictive maintenance alerts, right? We already have interactive marketing content with virtual product tours, et cetera, remote product inspection. And so there's a lot of things that we're already experimenting with that will influence the future of this as well. So the last piece is shifting from reactive to predictive. And this is a reality that Ryan talked about in his first session when he was talking about digital twins, which is a key enabler to this shift. Spotify is another great example of a company that's really able to use data to understand the behavior and predict what we want to hear. But let's just simply talk about your feedback program. I suspect that most of you are at best hearing from 30% of your customers, but on average, what we see is that 5 to 10% of customers answer feedback surveys. And what that does is it generates a massive feedback zone, which you'll see a visualization of on the next page. And with the advancements in analytics and data tools that we have the ability to bring together operational data like parts availability, on-time delivery, or response time on quotes in new ways along with customer feedback in order to predict the sentiment of our customers who are not opting in to share feedback in the first place. And on the next click through, you'll see that this really bridges the shadow zone. And it helps us understand sentiment across the entire customer base at all levels. We're also seeing other ways outside of feedback programs, of course, to move from reactive to predictive. Predictive maintenance alerts, of course, and flexible upgrades or trade-ins, right, with subscription or rental programs that preserve used value, letting customers easily upgrade to newer models or new technology as they become available. And so with those three shifts, right, digital becoming a commodity and an opportunity to innovate the experience to better meet how expectations are changing so that when we do, we're in a better position to win because customers are in the driver's seat and they expect us to be predictive. We need a new blueprint of action. And that's the last piece that I want to leave you with. There's really three things that we think are critical to success here. And on the next slide, we dig in a little bit to developing a customer value plan. And the value plan should be bold because it gives clarity to your teams on how to drive focused action. You're going to need precision insights for this. You're going to need to understand customer lifetime value. You're going to need to understand and be able to analyze customer segments and cohorts. You're going to need acquisition and retention metrics. and you're going to need predictive behavior analysis. But all of this is possible. And when we put this together, we have an action plan for how and with whom we intend to grow and deepen relationships, where we have the best opportunities to acquire new customers, how we can reduce our cost to serve with further ease within the process, and how can we retain customers as well by solving their pain points and challenges. The second step is making strategic choices about how to win. So once we have this clear value plan in place, this is how do we connect employees and our customers to our brand, and then selecting the specific signature experiences that represent the brand in a very unique way. And on the next slide, you'll see that embedding technology is critical in this step. This requires a strong digital foundation to support employees as well as to enable customers and support their interactions with AI, leveraging all of the data available, including unstructured data, and to equip our teams for success. The third step is to fortify your culture. You know, as you grow, you risk bureaucracy overshadowing what has made you great. So make time to inspire your teams by your leadership, as well as through the purpose of creating customer success, enriching their lives. Ensure that you know where your team capabilities are and where they are relative to best in class, so that you also know how to support their development. And so as I close, I'd like to finish up where I started with a cut of 3 things that I hope you'll take away. Number 1, enriching the lives of your customers is still the most enduring and profitable strategy. I know that sometimes there's questions about that, and I want to reassure you that all of the data, all of the evidence supports this fact. The second, that as customers continue to change and their expectations are influenced by the best experiences all around you, the best things that we can do to win are to make time for our employees, for our customers, for strategy, for growth. And I know it's hard because we're consumed by the day-to-day operations within our business, but make time for that and invest in experimenting and collaborating and always seeking value for your customers, as I know that that is a formula for success. With that, I will leave you with an invitation. Recently, Bain collaborated across the industry to develop and launch global standards for CX. And so if you are interested in accelerating your ambition to set the standard in your industry for customer experience, you are welcome to scan this QR code and download these standards and kind of self-assess, what does this mean for you?